Hello and welcome to another Modswell video. I'm your host Maxwell. Last week I released my dragon based load order, so this week I'm playing catch up. With that in mind, I will be including a few things that caught my attention last week. As you'll likely notice, I've also started work on my next order, which is going to focus on making Skyrim as pretty as possible. If that interests you, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on that video's release. But I've waffled on for long enough, so let's get down to business. I'm going to start us off with a brand new armour from a brand new porter. Here we have the Blood Operative armour by Louibu, and I do hope that that's how you pronounce that. This is the first port from a good friend and admin over on my Discord server, Sir Tiltalot, but this isn't being included because of that bias, it's included because of its sheer class. The Blood Operative armour is a light armour for both males and females that is going to really suit any mage or even nobility builds that you might be working towards. Its design is based off of an armour from Magic the Gathering that goes by the same name. It is a highly detailed and intricate set with black and gold colouring. I can see this becoming a very popular end of game role-playing set for anyone building a slightly suspect mage. One with ill intent like a member of the Dark Brotherhood, which is exactly where I will be using this very set. Getting your hands on this is actually fairly simple too. As long as you have the Elven Smithing perk, you'll be able to craft this over at the Forge, and like most proper in-game armours, it's usable by males, females and the beast races too. It also comes complete with tempering recipes, basically everything that you could want from a set that looks this nice. But there's more. This set is available in 3 different standards. 1k is going to cost you 11.2 megabytes, 2k which is 32.4 megabytes, and the 4k is a whopping 113.9 megabytes. I'm not really going to surprise anyone here when I say that 1 or 2k is definitely the way to go. The step up to 2k is very notable, but the increase in standard from the 2k to 4k, whilst definitely easy to see, it's not enough to warrant the cost. However, Tilt has informed me that he's learning how to optimize textures, so expect to see that cost go down by quite a bit. This mod is of course available over on PC, where I would 100% say get that 4K. My final thoughts on this mod is that I'd love to see it be utilised as a Thalmor armour replacer in the future. It definitely suits their whole aesthetic. Let's move on to 4th place. Here I've opted for Abby the Fire Mage follower. Abby is based on a character many of you have already seen before. She's been in a few of my thumbnails as well as pictures for quite a few mods. This is a follower who was created by Glassassin, who I just call GLA, and I hope that's okay. He is a hugely active member of the community and helpful to so many people, be it through his mods, amazing photography skills, or his own mod videos. Speaking of which, there will be a link to his channel in the description. That's enough blowing smoke though, let's just take a look at the follower. Abby is an elf who specialises in one-handed weapons and fire magic. She is brutal in combat and utilises all of her skills to eviscerate opponents. She will serve you extremely well in battle. But there is more to her than just this. Due to how Abby was made, we get quite a few things hidden in this mod. Not only does she use custom assets such as a CBBE body, new face mesh, high resolution skin, as well as KS heads and eyes of beauty, which pulls together to create a really unique looking character and somewhat goes towards diversifying the NPC base, we also get a brand new custom one-handed sword called Ziriel, and the Neotris armour, which is a beautiful light set perfect for a rogue. Essentially, this mini pack is offering you quite a lot, and for only 42.5 megabytes as well, making it a brilliant cost for everything on the table. So far, I've been playing with Abby for a few days and she's pulled me out of some tight spots already, and due to her getup, really suits fighting side by side with my character Jerry. I really recommend this mod, whether you're playing on Xbox or PC, which again, this is available for, and it comes down to variety of character. She feels different to other followers, and whilst maybe not as complete as say a Nego or other fully voiced custom followers, she actually has something they don't. She is separate from every other person in the game, which means your beauty mods are irrelevant to her. While she might not fully suit the overall style of your game's NPCs, the longer you play with her, the more joy you find in her own personal identity. Let's take a look at 3rd place, where I've opted for Wrath of the Living Forest. You may have noticed that when it comes to new spawns in these lists, they generally fit in as an expansion to another spawn type. This one, just like Gods of the Old Hunt and Kernanas, will act as an expansion to the Spriggan line. Nax Marder, the original author, has created 3 new spawns, all with extra variety of each. These have been based off of enemies from within the Warhammer series and ported in over Skyrim skeletons to make them fit the game world better. I've never experienced Warhammer, so I hope someone with some knowledge will come and help us out in the comments section. there is a pinned comment in it for you, as well as my unyielding respect. But as I haven't partaken in that series, I'm just going to have to talk about these from my own perspective. And I see these new additions as fantastic expansions on the Spriggan line, with larger versions being more domineering melee attackers and the smaller ones using magic and ambushes to attack. Overall, this mod is so fantastic because it feels like it belongs in the game, creating a better beginner to endgame class out of what was honestly just an underdeveloped vanilla enemy. Spriggans have always had the aesthetic and the mechanics to be brilliant, but in vanilla, you're either too low of a level or too high of a level to really care about them. And as they're such static spawns, there are simple ways to just never see them in your game. But a mod like this is going to flip that on its head and finish the work that Bethesda started. I'd be interested in seeing even more expansion here, and I highly recommend this mod alongside Kernanas for the stag-like appearance and Gods of the Old Hunt as bosses of the class to truly finish this set off and create a better Spriggan species, but that is just me. To have this mod in your game, you're going to need to shell out 55.3 megabytes, which all things considered is more than fair. Just be careful out there, these aren't pushovers, the forest is fighting back. In second, I'm going to be taking a look at the Ebony Damascus blades. My last Top Mods Weekly talked about the same author's crossbows, and I said he was planning on expanding the Ebony Damascus sets. This is the next step in that expansion. The Ebony Damascus blades features 6 brand new weapons, each with the same care and attention shown to the crossbow. In the pack, we get a dagger, 3 one-handed swords in the form of a katana, a longsword and a gladius style blade, as well as a cleaver and a 2-handed wakizashi. Every single blade in this pack is designed with fantastic tiny details. Mythic is a very new author, but we can already see the sheer effort and care he puts into his work, and these are definitely on par with the crossbow in terms of design and utility. To gain access to these new weapons, you will need to unlock the Dragon Smithing perk and head over to a forge. To temper them, you will also need the Arcane Smithing perk, which I like as it holds back the inevitable power creep that comes with modded weapons. But to that end, each of these blades are going to come in at 1 extra point of damage than the Dragonbone weapons, which makes them the strongest non-enchanted weapons in the game. Unlike the crossbows, however, they do have a downside. Simply put, a rather large cost of 94.8 megabytes to get your hands on them. This is due to the high poly nature of each weapon, which is required to show off the intricate detailing. It's one of those times where you have to choose between quality and cost, meaning they're not going to slot into every single order. But should you have the space, I highly recommend checking them out for yourself. This obviously isn't going to be an issue for PC players who have access to these new weapons as well. And finally, it's time for my top mod of the week, or more accurately, my top 2 mods with an optional extra. Here we have the Enhanced AI framework alongside the Organic Factions master file. Essentially, the framework acts as a building block to allow the AI from Organic Factions to work. I'm not going to spend any real time talking about this part, as it's a master file for the actual mod I want to talk about. Alone, this mod will do nothing to your game other than set you back a mod slot and 12 megabytes. But it's being used as a platform here, so we have to have it. Okay, so onto Organic Factions. This mod creates brand new factions within the game. Essentially, it's a group of NPCs that live, travel and grow together, complete with a leadership hierarchy. This all sounds fairly standard for the game so far, but this is anything but standard. These factions are entirely independent of your character. They level and evolve, grow, recruit, fight and die in a way that is so unlinked to the playable character. It's all about time instead. You of course can become a friendly or adversary of the factions too. This can all depend on leadership and how you've interacted with them. Given enough time, the factions will level up enough to eventually start to wander out into the world space, allying themselves with different groups. This can lead to positive or negative experiences in your game. Well, really they're all positive, as you will either befriend them or end up in combat. Seems like a win-win to me from a gaming perspective. Just remember that this can make a dungeon you would often just assault much more difficult. The lack of responsibility, coupled with the ever-evolving and changing world, make this mod an absolute must-play. However, it is going to cost you 66 megabytes, plus the 12 we talked about earlier. To me, this is a no-brainer. It might be the best mod available, and you can pick it up on Xbox or PC. But I'm still not done yet. There is one final plugin. This time it is optional though. This is the extension port. This is going to expand on that base number of factions, as well as having them enter into a war of sorts with each other. You'll be able to watch as these factions spread across the map, overtaking dungeons, forts, or really anywhere. They create supplies for themselves as they recruit new members with useful skills like blacksmiths or alchemists, which having on side leads to them being better equipped with armors, weapons, or potions, for example. But this is really just the tip of the iceberg. There is plenty more on offer in terms of supplies they can make use of, but I want to move on to how the factions can interact with each other. When they meet, a few things can happen. If you're there, you can actually just pick a side and effectively battle to defeat the other team. But if you're not, the battle's going to happen regardless. A side will be picked to win, and when you arrive, you'll see the results. Usually, this leads to lower numbers in the winning group for a short time, but due to their leveling through victory, they're likely to grow larger in the future. This really plays like Lord of the Rings, Shadow of War or Mordor, where leaders would be responsible for so much of what happened. But beyond that, how your player wasn't always responsible for the outcomes of the changes in groups and their leaders. This expansion is going to set you back a whopping 294.4 megabytes, but honestly, it's necessary to get the full spec of this mod. This is going to be a 3-mod setup that I highly suggest making space for and diving in to play. It is going to do so much for your enjoyment, for your potential, for combat. This, in my humble opinion, is the most game-changing mod we've ever had on console. And on that bombshell, I am going to call it. If you'd like to be a part of the discussion, then come and join us over on the Discord channel. You'll find a link to that and all the mods mentioned in the description below for both PC and Xbox users. As always, I would appreciate those likes, comments, and of course subscriptions, as they help push my work out further with YouTube's algorithm. They also tell me that you want more content like this. But either way, thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.